Hello, and welcome back to another other episode of Growth Journal, the podcast where I talk about growing your business and growing together with your business. Now, for today's episode, I want to try something new. I This is probably going to be the first one in a series where I look at a certain brand or a certain product and see how they are doing things differently in a way that I believe really works for marketing your business. And for today's episode, we're going to look at Belmond, which is a hotel chain, and they also have a couple of train experiences in Europe as well. And we'll be looking at their different marketing channels. So we'll be looking at their Instagram, at their email marketing, their website, and also at the ads that they are running. Although, spoiler alert, they are not running a whole lot of ads. And the questions that we will ask ourselves with each of these channels is how they are using that channel, what they are doing differently than most brands, where they could still improve if I can see some improvement somewhere. And we'll also go over a couple of examples showing what they are doing right now. Now, for these examples, obviously, this is a podcast. So if you're listening to this, I'll also leave a link to the video that goes with this podcast as well in the show notes. So you can go and watch it on YouTube and you can see the examples there. But obviously, I'll be focused on this being an audio podcast. So I'll be very descriptive about anything that I'm showing here. So to start off, we'll have a look at what they are doing on their Instagram. And if we have a look here, we can see they have a main Instagram account for Belmond in general, but they also have Instagram accounts for the different locations that they actually own. So here in the main channel, we can see that they're talking about the different locations, and immediately by the photography, we can see that they put quite some effort in the way that they are presenting these locations. And specifically, you can see that they're not really focused on the properties themselves, but they are more focused on the culture of the location and anything that happens here. So obviously they will show different parts of their hotel, but as you will see, this is also more in an inspiring matter. As you can see someone standing on the balcony at the Splendido here, or their new pool area at the Splendido. And this is actually one of the locations that they recently, where they recently did some renovations, and it just reopened in June, I think. So we'll have a look at that Instagram account as well in a second. But as you can see here, like already different than that we see most of the time for brands that are selling something, like they are literally not selling at all on their Instagram. So they are like not talking about the room rates, they're not talking about any discounts that they have to offer, although I also doubt that they have any discounts. But instead, they're talking about and showing events that are going on near their location. So this one, for example, this is actually when we were at that location as well recently, when the Primavera Regatta was being held, which was a really beautiful sight. You could see like all the sailing ships there, and at the end of the day, a lot of these sailboats would come into the Portofino harbor, which was a very interesting sight. You can probably still find some photos of this on my Instagram account as well. But this is already a lot different than what most do. Now, if we take a look at one of their specific locations, so to stick with the same example, let's take the Splendido. And as we can see here, it's the same story, like one of their pin posts here, and this is actually an interesting one. So this is Splendido as seen by, or actually Splendido, seen as seen by Chris Rhodes. So they asked an artist to show their location through the lens of that artist. And this is something that I see that Belmond is doing quite often for their locations. They will collaborate with creators, with artists, to show their locations. And this is something that actually works really well for them. And it's definitely by design that they are doing this. Other things we can see here is a video from the opening party that they had for their new pool, or them talking about an Italian concept. I can't really pronounce this very well, but I think it says something along the lines of villeggiatura, which means the Italian art of savoring a prolonged stay with friends and family in the countryside, at the seaside, or in the mountains. And then also their focus here on that this means taking your time, which really is a luxury in today's hectic world. And this is a concept that we will see more often here as well. And like we can see that the focus is really on the experience at the location. So again, they're not really talking about the rooms, they're not really talking about the food that is being served, but more about the moments that are being shared. And this is something that will really inspire people to visit your location, or even to translate this into your own store, or maybe have an online store, really inspiring people to connect with your brand. And eventually this connection will also mean that people will ask to work with you. Then when we have a further look, so as I said, this is definitely by design. So I found a case study from an agency that they worked with. And as they are describing it here, they said the challenges, they like Belmond challenged us to increase awareness of their luxury accommodation, train services, and river cruises in destinations around the globe, whilst driving audiences to the Belmond Instagram account and gaining them loyal followers. Now, this last part is also very important. It is very easy to get followers. I still remember, like nowadays, it happens less often. But like a couple of years ago, I saw a lot of local businesses that, for example, were giving away an iPhone if you followed their Facebook page or liked their Facebook page. Now, this was a great way to actually build an audience for your Facebook page. The only downside here was that unless you were a store selling iPhones, which was not the case, you weren't really connecting with this audience that you were building. So whatever next post that it was that you would share, there would really be no engagement at all. So that was like a big mistake that I saw a lot of the time. So that's why it's interesting here to see that they're really focusing on loyal followers. And this is definitely something that you can also see in the content that they are creating. The solution that they present here, we selected 7 influencers from the travel, photography, and luxury verticals to travel to the 7 wonders of Belmond: Venice, Sicily, Peru, Brazil, Cambodia, and South Africa. Each influencer received a gifted trip during which they captured and shared the amazing experiences that each destination had to offer, including sunrises at the Machu Picchu and a journey aboard the Venice Simplon Orient Express. The influencers had arranged itineraries by Belmond during which they captured content for their own feed, as well as additional content for Belmond to share across their socials. And this is also how we now know how they got to their authentic content that they are sharing on their social channels. So this is a very interesting case study, and something that you could also probably do for your own business on a smaller scale. I actually recently we had a client where we worked with content creators, so not necessarily big influencers, and we sent them our products and we just asked them, like, create a video of maximum 1 minute for us describing the product and how you like the product and how you would use the product. So we were looking for really authentic videos from actual end users, and this was something that worked really well for us, and we definitely did it at a smaller scale. So we were not looking for the largest influencers in the space and asking them to share this content on their channels, but we did ask them to create content for us that we can share on our own channels. And quite often, if you find the smaller to like medium-sized Instagram accounts and you like the style of the content that they produce, you reach out to them, you ask them to create content together. Quite often, they will actually, you will find a way to work together with these people. So now that we've seen a little bit of their social media on Instagram, let's hop on to the email marketing that they have to offer. So I'm going over 3 examples here. So the first one is something that they called introducing Belmond legends. And one of these legends is actually the first one that I already mentioned while we saw it on their Instagram account. Splendido as seen by Chris Rhodes. And then they did a collaboration with the same person for Hotel Cipriani as well in Venice. And again, we can see how they work with external people to view the location through their lens, which is a very interesting way of doing marketing and a way that definitely works and connects with other people as well. So, for example, let's read the description that they have here for Hotel Cipriani. At Hotel Cipriani in Venice, photographer Chris Rhodes transports us to a world of timeless glamour and bold energy. Dive into his artistic exploration of this legendary Italian residence, where the world's most fascinating names come together to indulge in life's timeless pleasures. So, really, again, talking about the feeling of the location rather than what the location has to offer, what the specific amenities are, what the rooms are like, and like obviously never talking about the room rates either. And they did the same for a couple of other locations, so like their location in Mallorca, and their locations, let's see where these are, location in Florence and then a location on the Amalfi Coast. And then also their Venice Simplon Orient Express, which is, I think, a really interesting experience since it's a train experience that really goes way back. Now, let's have another look at a specific email that they had for Venice, their Venice location, so Hotel Cipriani. And again, we can see that in their email, they're really focusing on what the location itself has to offer. So one of the quotes that I can take out of this email here is any arrival at Hotel Cipriani carries a cinematic mystery. So this is something that really like it just makes you want to visit this location, right? A serene home from home. A Venetian oasis. Heartfelt storytellers, another example. And also for people listening to the podcast and not seeing this on YouTube, everything is accompanied with great photography of the specific location. You can really see that the photos are not just taken by like a marketing crew or maybe even someone working at the hotel, but they're like really taken by someone who is really into photography. So the photos are looking like really artistic, which is really nice. And then they're also talking a little bit about the food experience there as well. Then the next one is about Hotel Splendido in Portofino. So here again, you can see the way that they are showing the location through the experiences nearby. So they are like showing a video about fresh pasta being made. They're showing some video of people being on the sea there, getting out of the water, sitting together with friends for dinner. So these are all like experiences that they're showing that really are talking about the feelings that you get when visiting the location and about the company that you have while you're there. Another example that we will see here is also the way, like here they are talking about the rooms, but the way that they talk about the rooms is really interesting. So they say, the balconies of each room transform into your personal stage and a stylish observatory. Each window perfectly frames the legendary Portofino coastline. So again, they're like really, really talking about the feeling that the location gives you, rather than what they specifically have to offer there. Or at least I guess they're also offering this experience, but they're definitely not talking about the rooms. Like when I get, maybe let's like compare this to other hotels. So when I get emails from other hotels, quite often these emails are about some promotion that they have going, or like maybe some new like package deal that they have to offer. Like there's always like some kind of offer in there. And with these emails, I'm looking at right now, and the people watching this on YouTube will see it as well. There's like literally no offer in this email. Like there's not even a call to action that says book now. So the only call to actions I see here is discover the legend, and then at the end as well, discover the legend. So this is something that they're doing well, which is have just one call to action for any marketing campaign that you're doing, in this case an email, which is always better than having, for example, 3, 4, 5 or even more call to actions, because this will just confuse people. And probably all of the photos, as we can see here, will also link through to their website. So that's also a great best practice as well. An interesting other part here is that they have like kind of a menu at the top of the email, so we can click through to hotels, safaris, boats, and trains, which I kind of like as well. I don't see this quite often, but I actually might take this idea for some of my own marketing campaigns. Now also let's have a look at their website. So their website is now the first location where I can actually see a button to book a stay at one of their locations. If you look at the menu, again, we're talking about destinations, experiences. They do talk about packages and tours here, and also their signature suites and villas. But then again, occasions and then offers and about. But I think this also makes sense. Like when people come to your website, usually they're already in the mindset of, I want to stay at this location, or at least I'm considering staying at this location. Whereas when people are scrolling through social media, their intention at that point is not really like, oh, I'm gonna scroll through Instagram right now because I'm really feeling like I want to book a room at a hotel right now. Like that's not what they're doing. They're scrolling through Instagram to see what their friends are up to, and also to be inspired by any accounts that they follow. Probably like the Splendido being one of the accounts they follow, because as we can see here, they have 194,000 followers, which is a lot of followers for a hotel. And I think the engagement on their post is also pretty good. So as we can see here, like 630 likes on a post. So the engagement is pretty good. It's not really up there for the amount of followers that they have. So that would be something interesting to examine. But it's definitely pretty good. But again, when we scroll on their website, it's really again about the destinations, the experiences at the destinations. Here again, meet the Belmond legend photographers. So really talking about the more artistic way of presenting their locations, which is really interesting. Then what's new from Belmond? So probably like their newer locations, as we can see here. Or maybe updates that they did to certain hotels, or here a new mixology adventure in Mexico. Mixology is also an interesting one. So my first experience with Belmont was at the Splendido Mare in Portofino, where we had a cocktail presented to us by Paolo, who did like a really great job at showing the experience in general. So I feel when you're staying at these locations, it's not as much about the location itself, but a lot of it has to do with the experience at the location, and especially with the people working at the location as well. So Paolo was really explaining to us how he found the different ingredients for his cocktail, that he sources all of these ingredients locally, and like really going through like great detail about how he creates these cocktails, which was a really interesting story and experience in and by itself. But as we can see here again, really focusing on the photos as well. And then last but not least, we also want to have a look at their ads. So as we can see here, or as for the people who are watching the video, but for the other ones, I'll explain it. Right now I'm looking at the ads within Meta. So this is for both Facebook and Instagram. The ads that they are running right now for Belmond, it's just 2 ads. And I can tell you from experience, most brands are running more ads at any given time than just 2 of them. Now, if you look at the details of these ads here, you can see like this ad has a couple of variations. So this one is showing the Amalfi Coast, and then the different versions are just for the different hotels that they have. But again, like the photography for these ads is just excellent. And again, they're not talking about what the hotel has to offer, like any deals that they have going. They're just showing you the location. And in this case, they do have a call to action, which says book now, which makes sense. Something we can't really see here is the way that they are targeting these ads. But my guess is that these ads will probably be targeted based on interactions with Instagram accounts for the specific hotel, which obviously would make sense. Now, I also looked up the Splendido, and as we can see here, they're like not running any ads at all on that Instagram account, which is also quite interesting. Now, as for what we can learn here, I think the first lesson that we can take from this is don't sell your product, but tell a story. Like as we saw here by Belmond, they're not selling their product, not at any point, unless you're visiting their website, and at that point it makes total sense. But whenever you are reaching people and you have these marketing touch points, just know that people are probably not in the mindset of being sold at that point. And that is something that Belmond seems to know really well. So they always look to inspire. And this inspiration at some point will result in a conversion being booking a stay at one of their hotels in this case. And keep this in mind for your own brand as well. Like just earlier I was talking to the graphic designer that I work with, and I also asked him like, do you ever ask people on your Instagram account to like work with you, or maybe that you have like a spot open to work with a new client, or an offer that you have for a branding package? He told me he didn't. No. He has a lot of interaction on the content that he posts on Instagram. Or actually I should say they, because it's a couple that's doing this. But they never sell something on Instagram. Then the next question I asked him is, do you ever get people that ask you to work with you, to do branding for them? And the answer was yes. So this shows that it's not only for big brands that this will work, but even if you're a graphic designer in this case, just show your best work, inspire people, and when people are inspired, they probably will end up working with you at some point. The next thing we can learn is collaborate with creators to see things through their lens. So quite often when you are creating content for your own business, you will see that you are focusing on the things that you really focus on yourself actually. So you will focus on specific offers that you created for your customers. But often it's good to have a fresh perspective. And also whenever you work with creators, they usually know what the audience wants. So for example, when Belmond works with a creator, they will pick creators that are like focusing on a niche that speaks to the same audience that they are looking to get at their hotels. And these creators over time really learned the different ways that they can show things. And this is something that Belmond can make great use of now, not only by sharing these experiences through these creators, but also by getting the content from these specific creators as well. And one of the people that I know that does this for Belmond, for example, is the Instagram account Life of Riley. And if you would look up his account, you would see that it really matches with the vibes and the atmosphere that you will see in the Belmond accounts as well. And one of the, let's call it like tactics that I saw that he uses on his Instagram account and that Belmond also is starting to use is incorporating videos in their Instagram posts as well. And not videos really telling a story, but videos showing you the local atmosphere. So basically holding your phone the same way as you would take the photo, but just instead of taking the photo, record it for like 5 to 10 seconds. And when you would do this in Portofino, for example, you would hear the sea, you would hear some birds, and this really gives you a feeling of what it is like to be in this location. And it's something that I started doing as well on my Instagram account recently. So I definitely feel that this is an interesting concept to use. Then the third point is to really speak to people's feelings. So again, we don't want to sell, but we want to convey the message of what will people feel when they are working with you? What will people feel when they visit your location? Is it the joy that we want to show? Like, for example, if you have a restaurant, one thing you can show is the meals. Another thing you can show is a group of friends or a family enjoying an evening at your restaurant, having fun, laughing. And I feel like this last message will convince people a lot better than, for example, just showing the food. So the food is definitely one reason why people go to a restaurant. But I think the most important reason is to have a good time. And that's the message that we want to bring across. And then the last one, if you consistently inspire people with what you have to offer, they will eventually come and buy your products or buy your services. So this goes to the same example I was talking about earlier from the designer that I work with. You don't really need to tell people that they can work with you. If you are showing the different things that you can do, people will find out about it. People will be inspired by the things that you share, and people will eventually be intrigued to connect with you and see if you can create something together, or if they can somehow benefit from the skills that you could bring to their business. So that is also where I would like to end this video. Still figuring out what the next one will be. So if you have any suggestions for the next video, please feel free to send me a message on Instagram. If you're watching this on YouTube, definitely don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It will greatly help whatever I'm doing on YouTube and growing the channel as well. And I will see and talk to you in the next episode. Bye.